On the 1st of February, 2022, a 19-year-old Canadian girl sent a message to two friends in England. She told them she needed help. She asked them to come and get her from the flat where she was living with the boy she had crossed an ocean to be with. A few hours later, those same friends got another message from her phone. It said everything was sorted. It said not to worry. Ashley Wadsworth did not send that second message. She was already dead when it was typed. That is where these stories almost always end. Not with a stranger in a parking garage. With a phone. With a man who knew her passcode, who knew her friends' names, and knew exactly what to say to make the people trying to save her stop trying. The pattern is so consistent, researchers have mapped it. A study of 372 intimate partner killings, published in the journal Violence Against Women, found these homicides almost never come out of nowhere. They follow a staged progression, and the first stage is not violence, it is control. And here is the number that should stop you cold. In an 11-city study of femicide funded by the National Institute of Justice, researchers found that when a woman leaves a highly controlling partner, her risk of being killed by him rises roughly ninefold. Not doubled, ninefold. The most dangerous thing a woman in that house can do is the exact thing everybody tells her to do. 5 real cases, 5 women who were right about the feeling and wrong about the man. Case 1. Ashley Wadsworth. Ashley was from Vernon, British Columbia. She met Jack Seppel online as a teenager. For years he was a voice on a screen 4,000 miles away, sending gifts across the Atlantic. By 2018 he had her name tattooed on his arm. In November of 2021, at 19, she flew to England on a 6-month visitor visa and moved into his flat in Chelmsford. Her friends back home noticed she got quieter. She began using secret accounts to reach them because, one friend said, her boyfriend did not want her talking to them at all. He went through her phone. He discouraged her from calling her family. By the end of January, she wanted out. Her mother had told her, "You're coming home." Her grandmother booked the flight. It was scheduled for the 3rd of February. On the morning of the 1st of February, a neighbor heard screaming and found Ashley hysterical in the hallway. That afternoon, Jack Seppel strangled her and stabbed her more than 90 times, then left her and went about his day. And then he picked up her phone. He messaged the friends she had begged for rescue and told them everything was sorted. He recorded a video of himself, covered in her blood, confessing. When police forced the door, he was sitting beside her body on a live video call to his own sister. He pleaded guilty. There was no trial. Chelmsford Crown Court sentenced him to life with a minimum term of 23 years and 6 months. And Essex police confirmed something that matters enormously. Nobody had ever called them about this couple. Not once. The system did not fail her. The system never knew she existed. She was killed 2 days before her flight home. Case 2. Gabby Petito. You already know the van. 2 high school sweethearts from Blue Point, New York, engaged in 2020 a converted Ford Transit, a 4-month plan to drive across America. She posted all of it, a life other people wished they had. What the photographs did not show was the 12th of August 2021 in Moab, Utah. A stranger called 911 and said the man was slapping the girl. Police pulled the van over. Gabby was sobbing so hard she could barely speak. And here is the part almost every retelling gets backwards. The officers did not treat Brian Laundrie as the aggressor. They wrote Gabby down as the aggressor. Nobody was arrested. They separated them for a night and let them drive away. An independent review found the officers made, in its words, unintentional mistakes and never called back the man who dialed 911. It concluded it was very likely Gabby was a long-term victim of domestic violence. She was last confirmed alive on the 27th of August. The Teton County coroner ruled the cause of death strangulation, the Manor homicide. Her body was found 3 weeks later in the Bridger-Teton National Forest. But between those dates, her phone kept talking. Her mother received a text that read, "Can you help Stan? I just keep getting his voicemails and missed calls." Stan was Gabby's grandfather. Gabby never called him Stan. Days later, another message, "No service in Yosemite." They were nowhere near Yosemite. Her mother has said she does not believe her daughter wrote it. The FBI later stated that Laundrie continued a text chain between their two phones after she is believed to have died, messages intended, in the Bureau's words, to give the impression that Miss Petito was still alive. He drove her van 2,000-mile home to Florida, alone. He used her debit card along the way, and that, not murder, is the only crime he was ever charged with. He never spoke to police. In October, he was found dead in a Florida park, and beside him was a notebook. One line, "I ended her life." Case 3, Kelsey Barrett. Kelsey met Patrick Frazee through an online dating site. She was living in Washington State, 1,000 miles away. She moved to Colorado for him. They got engaged. They had a daughter, Kaylee. They never lived together. Kelsey kept her own townhome in Woodland Park. About a month before Thanksgiving of 2018, Frazee asked a woman named Crystal Lee, a nurse in Idaho and his longtime lover, to kill Kelsey for him. He asked 3 times, poison in Kelsey's Starbucks, a metal pipe, a baseball bat. She delivered the coffee without the poison. She waited outside the townhome and could not do it. Each time she backed out. So, on Thanksgiving Day, he did it himself. The last time anyone saw Kelsey Barrett alive, she was on a Safeway security camera at 27 minutes past noon, pushing her 1-year-old daughter in a shopping cart, buying ingredients for a sweet potato casserole. A neighbor's camera caught her, Frazee and the baby walking into her townhome an hour later. Later footage shows Frazee leaving alone. He told police it was a routine custody handoff in an alleyway and suggested Kelsey was depressed. Then the FBI pulled the phone records. After that afternoon, in the words of the investigators, Kelsey's phone and Patrick's phone started traveling together, away from her townhome, toward his family's ranch. 3 days later, her phone texted her employer to say she would not be at work that week. It pinged a cell tower near Gooding, Idaho, 800 miles from her front door. Kelsey Barrett had never been to Idaho. Crystal Lee had driven the phone there. Investigators pried up her floorboards and found blood soaked through the wood. At the burn site on Frazee's property, all they ever recovered were fragments of tooth. Kelsey Barrett's body has never been found. Patrick Frazee has never confessed. He didn't have to. In November of 2019, a Teller County jury convicted him on every count in about 3.5 hours, and the judge handed him life without parole, plus 156 years. Case 4. Shanann Watts. This one breaks the pattern, and you need to understand why that makes it more frightening, not less. Shanann met Chris Watts on Facebook in 2010. They married in 2012, bought a house in Frederick, Colorado, and had 2 little girls, Bella and Celeste. Shanann documented all of it, the anniversaries, the school mornings, the pregnancy reveal for the son they were going to name Nico. Scroll her feed in the summer of 2018, and you would have seen a happy family. There is no documented history of violence in that house, no police reports, no bruises, no coercive control any researcher could point to afterwards and say, there, that's the sign. What Shanann had was a husband who had gone cold. Her own texts survive. He has changed, she wrote. I don't know who he is. And that is the finding that ought to frighten you most. A study published in Feminist Criminology found that fully half of the men who killed an intimate partner reported no physical or sexual assault against her in the year before the homicide. Half. The absence of bruises is not the absence of danger. In the early hours of the 13th of August, 2018, Chris Watts strangled his pregnant wife in their bed. He put his 2 living daughters in his work truck, drove 45 minutes to an oil site owned by his employer, and killed them there. Bella was 4. She watched. Her last words, according to the confession he gave months later, "Daddy, no." The next day, he stood in his own driveway and gave a television interview, pleading for his family to come home. She wasn't here, he said. The kids weren't here. Nobody was here. There was no dramatic forensic breakthrough here. There was a neighbor's security camera across the street showing Chris Watts backing his truck up to his own garage at 5:15 in the morning, something the neighbor said he had never once seen him do. And there was Shanann's phone, wedged down between the couch cushions, her purse, her keys, her car in the garage with both car seats still in it. A pregnant woman had left home without any of it. 2 days later, he failed a polygraph and confessed to a lie, blaming Shanann for the girls. He pleaded guilty and received 5 life sentences without parole, 3 of them consecutive, plus 84 years. He will die in prison. Case 5. Emma Walker. Emma was 16, a cheerleader at Central High School in Knoxville, Tennessee, who wanted to be a neonatal nurse. She started dating William Riley Gall at 14, when he was a 16-year-old football player. Her mother said he seemed, at first, very sweet. Her friends testified later under oath to what it actually was: possessive, overbearing, toxic. His own best friend used the word controlling. He waited outside her classroom. He sat all day at the neighborhood pool, waiting for her to walk past. When she blocked his number, he borrowed a teammate's phone and called her 52 times in one night. There was never a police report. There was no black eye. Her own father testified he never knew of Gall physically harming her. In November of 2016, she ended it for good. That is when it escalated into something nobody had a name for. In November, Gall downloaded an anonymous texting app, used it to pose as his own kidnappers, and lured Emma outside to find him face down in the street, the victim of a crime he had invented. Her friends said she was violently sobbing. The next morning, a neighbor's motion camera caught a figure dressed head to toe in black, walking toward her house and running back 3 minutes later. Emma texted her friends that a man in black was banging on her door. That night, for the first time in her life, she asked her parents to turn on the house alarm. 3 days later, at around 10 to 3 in the morning, Riley Gall stood 4 feet from the outside wall of her family's home, a house he had been inside, a bedroom he knew, a bed whose position he could picture, and fired 2 shots through the wall. One struck Emma Walker above her left ear while she slept. His lawyers told the jury he only meant to frighten her so that he could rescue her. The jury did not believe it. He had stolen the 9mm from his step-grandfather's car 3 days earlier. He had asked a friend how to remove fingerprints from a gun. And when he asked that same friend to help him throw the gun off the bluffs into the Tennessee River, that friend went to the police and wore a wire. They arrested him at the bluffs, pulling the weapon from a bag of black clothing. In May of 2018, he was convicted of first-degree premeditated murder. He is serving life and will not be eligible for parole for 51 years. 5 women, 5 men who were, at the beginning, the best thing that had ever happened to them. Look at what convicted these men, and notice what is missing. There is no eyewitness. In 3 of these cases there was no confession at all, and in 1 there was never even a body. What closed the loop every single time was a machine with no loyalty to anyone. A security camera pointed at a driveway, a cell tower in Idaho, a debit card swipe, a text message sent in a voice that was almost, but not quite, hers. And every one of those machines only started talking after she was already dead. The warning signs were not hidden. They were just quiet. He wanted to know who she was texting. He showed up where she worked. He didn't like her closest friend. He handled the money. He said he would kill himself if she left. None of that is a crime. None of it gets anybody arrested. And all of it is in the research. In that same 11-city femicide study, 79% of the women killed by a partner had been physically abused by that man first. The National Network to End Domestic Violence reports financial abuse occurs in 99% of domestic violence cases, and that 78% of Americans don't recognize it as abuse at all. And according to the CDC, more than half of all women murdered in the United States are killed in connection with intimate partner violence. Not by strangers, by the person who was supposed to love them. If any part of this sounded like your relationship, or your sister's, or your friend's, the checked phone, the friendship that quietly disappeared, the apology you keep giving for someone else's anger, tell someone tonight. In the United States, the National Domestic Violence Hotline is 800-7997-233. You can also text the word START to 887888. Ashley had a flight booked. Gabby had a whole life waiting at home. Kelsey had a daughter in the next room. Leaving is the most dangerous moment there is, and it is still the one worth surviving. If this story moved you, hit like and subscribe, so the next person who needs to hear it does.